Hey YouTubers, Steve here, also known as Trainline14, and today I'm expanding on my legacy system tutorials by adding an advanced legacy system control system tutorial with 5 tips that will help you advance your engineer skills. Now, I'm going to start off the video by telling you, I already kind of told you a small lie. It's not 5 tips, I actually added a bonus tip at the end of the video that's a little bit smaller. Some of you might already know about it, some of you might not, but that's why I added it as a bonus tip at the end, so stick around to see that. Before we begin today, I'm going to tell you right away that for this video I'm assuming that you already know the basics of how to operate Lionel's legacy control system. If you don't know the basics, well, I'm going to lead you right to the video that tempted me to create this video in the first place. You'll find it linked to it up in the upper corner of your screen. That's my Lionel Legacy Beginners tutorial. So if you don't know the basics of operating the Lionel Legacy control system, just click on that link. It'll take you to that video real quick, and you can watch that, then come back here to learn the advanced techniques. But for those of you who already know how to operate the system, let's begin. One more thing before we proceed into the tips. I know that some of you are going to ask me, "Hey Steve, what system are you, or what system version are you on?" And I'll tell you right away, I'm on version 1.52 on my legacy control system and base. But fear not, if you're on an older version, most of these tips should work just fine on older versions of the software. If not, you'll just have to upgrade your software. But I know for a fact that most of these tips, if not all of them, will indeed work on older software versions. And coming back to you today from the previous video, we got the big boy starring again, as well as the Katie. And the reason I chose these two again is, besides the fact that they're cool, they are some of the first legacy engines ever produced. So that just goes to show you, all the tips I'm going to demonstrate for you today, you can perform with any legacy equipped engine. Any legacy equipped engine ever made should be able to perform these tips I'm about to show you. So it doesn't matter if it's none of the newest engines or one of the older engines, these tips will work fine for you. So the very first feature we're going to talk about today, or advanced tip, that we're going to discuss is the record feature. I've had several commenters ask me, "Oh, how do you use that?" So I'm going to explain it to you to the best of my ability. Now, what is the record feature used for, is the first question. What you can use the record feature for is, it's kind of like letting the train drive itself, which is pretty fun to do even if you don't necessarily need to do it. But let's say you had 2 remotes and you're running 2 trains on 2 different tracks, like right now what I have, my Katie and my big boy. You could set one of them on one remote as a recording, and you could, while you drove the other one. So the other one will kind of drive itself and play all the sounds while you manually control the other one. And plus it's kind of fun to do too. I've had relatives over to visit my layout and I'll go, "Hey look, my trains can drive themselves." So it's kind of just fun as an impressive little tool that, you know, the train's driving itself kind of thing. But anyway, that's what you can use the recording for, just to have some fun or have the train control itself while you go do something else. But anyway, let's begin with how to do it. So before I say actually how to do it, the first thing you should know is that the recording is stored in the legacy remote itself. And you can only store one recording at a time. It's not like you can, go save 5 or 10 recordings and, scroll through them and use them at your discretion. No, it's only one recording at a time as of the current version, or the current software, 1.5 or whatever. But it's actually a very long recording. So the recording, you can record up to 1,000 events with roughly 400 seconds between events. No, it's exactly 400 seconds between events. So what that means is the recording is not like a camera recording. Like when you record with a camera, you have so many minutes on your memory card that you can use to film. With the legacy remote, it's based on how many events you do. So you can have the train running for the longest of time, but the recording is directly proportional to the number of events you do. So if I had the train just running in, let's say, a straight line without touching anything, that can do that for a full 400 seconds before it's considered a next event. Or if you do an action like blow the horn, that moves it to the next event as well. So depending on what you're doing can depend on how long the recording is, but you shouldn't really get anywhere even close to 1,000 events unless you're making some super long trip or something. I don't know. Usually I just make short little recordings. But anyway, so how to do this. Turn my remote on. I'll start by using the big boy for the demonstration. I got it saved as engine 61. I'm going to just turn it on here. And I'll turn the sound down a little bit so you can hear what I'm saying, but I'll leave it on. So to make a recording, the first thing you want to do is your record button here, you're going to want to hold it down for 5 seconds. And when you do that, it's going to say recording at the top of the screen. So we'll do that now. Press and hold. Recording. So now it's recording all the events I'm doing. So we're going to start by you just drive the train as you normally would. So here we go. Blow the whistle. Turn up the speed. And it's quiet because I turned the sound down. So, and you just operate your train like you normally would. We'll let the big boy take a lap around the layout, and when it gets back, I'll show you how to save the recording. But while it's running, you can do anything you want. Play some sounds. Change your speed. Doesn't matter.
UP 4006, the track is clear. Over. Copy that. Making good time. 4006 out.
Another thing you can do with the recording is you can actually record 2 engines at once. So if I was driving my Katy right now, I could add it to the same recording. But anyway, here it comes. We're gonna... When I'm all done, I just hit that record button and it'll say recording stopped. Or created. Yeah. So now that that's done, I've made my recording. To play it back, all I gotta do is hit that record button one time. It'll say playing. Now I had that little delay at the video at the beginning when I was talking to you guys, so not touching anything, just driving itself. In fact, I'll hold the remote right here. You can see I'm not touching anything. The remote is totally playing back what I made. Now, a couple things I want to explain to you. Well, that I just did manually. You can still manually blow the horn during recording as well, or do any sounds. But it's best to just leave it to the controller to do it. Otherwise, what's the point, right? So, you see that little counter at the top. That's how many seconds until the next command. So 8 seconds, and then it'll issue a new command. On the top right, there's another little graph. That's just where it is in the recording, but I don't know why that's not gaining. I'm not exactly sure why that's not that high. But as you can see, it's just playing through the recording, 0 seconds. Playback stops when it finishes it. And that's the recording. Basically, yeah, you just saw that little timer. That just, like I said, that just tells you how many seconds till the next event. On the top right, I read in the manual that it says that, yeah, that's the total duration of the recording, but that doesn't really seem too accurate when I was doing that, so I'm not exactly sure, but it doesn't really matter. So that's basically how to make a recording. Now, another kind of recording you can do is you can make a loop recording. So how you do that, now keep in mind, remember I said you can only make one recording at a time. So when you make a new recording, it's going to overwrite that old one. And now what a loop recording is it's a recording that you make once and then, like, you know, obviously it just keeps looping. And the best time to use that is when your engine's continuously moving. You don't really want to stop and do siding work with a recording because it doesn't necessarily remember the specific piece of track that it's on, unless you're kind of starting in the exact same spot. But anyway, with a loop recording, it's best to have the train moving at a steady rate. And so what you can do now to make a loop recording, you initiate it with the same way you did before. You hold it for 5 seconds. It'll say recording. Drive the train normal. You can blow the horn. Make some sounds. And I won't make too many because I want to talk to you while the train goes to that recording. When your recording's all done, to save it as a loop, you want to press and hold the record button for 5 seconds instead of just tapping it. So I'm just going to press and hold it for a couple seconds. Now I can keep holding it, but it won't do anything till I release. Just make sure you hold it for a solid 5 seconds, and then after that you can release. It'll say recording created. I'll leave my engine going at this speed. Now it's saved as a loop recording. So now if I hit the record button to play it back, just a simple tap, it'll just say playing. And now it'll just keep playing through that recording as a loop. It'll keep going through it, it won't end. So the train will continue to just drive itself. I'll let it come back around before I explain the next thing to you. So it's just going through the recording. And at any time, if you'd like to stop the recording while it's in the middle, you just hit the record button. Playback stopped. Simple as that. I'll stop the train for you here. Now the final question you're going to ask is, how do I delete the recording? Well, you can't actually technically delete a recording. Instead, what you do is you make a new recording with nothing on it. So it's basically just like a blank slate recording. So you initiate the record again like you always would. You hold the record button. It'll say recording. Then you just quickly tap it again. Recording created. And it's just like a 2-second recording with nothing on it. So that's basically like erasing or overwriting what you previously had. But that's how to use the record feature, and it's a lot of fun when you get good at that, because you can impress people with trains driving by themselves and knowing where they're going. But the thing you got to be careful of, like I said earlier, is when you're doing a recording, if you're doing a lot of stopping and starting, pulling in the sidings, you got to be a little careful, because sometimes the engine goes by how much distance it's going, and or time between the events or whatever, the 400 seconds between the events. So it doesn't necessarily know when it's approaching the end of a siding. It's just kind of following the events you had before. So if you stopped your engine at a point where you didn't start and you're doing a lot of siding work, it might not be accurate as to where it's pulling. So recording's not really ideal for doing stuff like that. It's mainly just for, you know, the train when it just drives in a straight loop and you can trust it going on its own. I wouldn't really trust it going into sidings unless you stop the train exactly where you started it, which is kind of hard to do. But anyway, yeah, that's the recording feature. Let's move on to the next tip. Okay, advanced legacy tip number 2 is, what is the train link button, and what does train link do? Train link is really useful when you want to either create scenarios or when you're working with lash-ups. And what it is it allows you to access trains, units, engines or units, or even accessories built within a lash-up. So let's say I have this, like I put the Katy behind the big boy now. Let's say I'm leading with the big boy. Well, in a lash-up, it only lets you blow the lead engine's horn or do whatever. Everything is done with the lead engine. It's like, well, what if I want to blow the Katy's horn or, you know, do some sounds with that one as well? Well, you could just go and type the individual engine ID, but that's kind of a pain. Or it's not really a pain, but it just takes more time. So to compensate for that, you can use the train link to quickly switch between units within a train, and even accessories too. Say you have like, you know, I don't know, a log loader that's legacy compatible, I don't know. You can activate it right from your train page. So anyway, let's show you how to do that. First thing you got to do is you build the lash up. Now, I'm not going to go through all the details of that, but you're going to see how it's done anyway, because I kind of have to do it in order to show you. So we'll just do train 1, go to info, and then we go to build. Now the front engine of course, is my big boy, so I have that saved as 61, because that's what I use when I go to the club I go to. And the front engine you don't have to worry about. That's always part of a train link. That doesn't need to be linked. And I just hit add, so now it's at the front. Now the thing I need to link is my Katie, and so first I punch in the engine's ID, 36, engine's facing forward. To add a train link, if you look at the bottom of your touchpad, you got 3 buttons down there, and on the bottom left is train link, and you just saw it right there. When I press that, a little chain icon comes above the engine, and that means it's initiated with train link. So now, if I hit add, it's added to the consist with a train link. If I wanted to add an accessory, I could hit accessory, and now I'm using accessory IDs. So whatever I have my accessory ID saved as, now I can punch that in and add that to the train as well. So anyway, go back to engine. Anything you add that's not an engine will automatically be added to train link. The only thing you have to manually add by using that little train link button in the bottom left are other engines, like I just showed you how to do. But anyway, when you have that, you just hit set, say programming trains, wait from the honk, train created, ready to run. Great. So now I got train 1 here. Now, this is great, like I said, this is great with other engines, but what it's also great with, too, is if you have, like, breakdown units, or whatever, you have, like, legacy-compatible freight cars or passenger cars. You can be driving with your train, and you can quickly switch to your freight car to unload cargo, and that, like I said, that's great for doing scenarios, if you want to quickly switch to another unit associated with what your train is doing, and even accessories, like I said. But anyway, now that you have it created, you still operate the lash up normally, and you can see when I blow the horn now, I'm blowing the big boy's whistle, not the Katie's. So if I wanted to do it with the Katie, now all I got to do, instead of punching in the engine ID, is I can hit train link, and that'll take me up here. And it says train link, engine 36 info, that's my Katie. If I had other things, you can save up to 5 pieces in your train link. If I had other things, I would have piece 1, piece 2, 3, 4, and 5. But since I just have the Katie, it's just right here. Now, the Katie's touchscreen display comes up, and now I can control the Katie. Do anything I want with it.
1988 here. Can I go? Over.
Now I'm talking as the Katie's engineer.
You're good to go. Over.
So, let's let it finish.
Copy. 1988 is cleared outbound. Out.
Then when you're all done, you can just hit train link, and now you're back to your lead engine. And like I said, you can have up to 5 units with that. To switch between units, you would just have more things displayed here, like TL1, TL2, and to switch between them, you'd just be hitting these soft keys. And since I just have the 1, it's just right there. And then to go back to your lead unit, like I said, just hit train link again, you're back to your lead unit. Now I can even be driving, whistle, hit train link, now I got the Katie. And so you see how that works. And also at any time, I'll stop the trains here, you can also disable train link. Like I said, if it's a non-engine item, it'll automatically be added to train link, and most of the time you're going to want that just left on. But let's say you didn't want it, you can just hit that train link button when we built the train, and that chain above the engine that you saw, or whatever unit you're using, will disappear, and that means it's been disengaged from the train link. But yeah, that's train link. Great for scenarios, great for accessing things within a train, accessories, other cars, so you don't have to keep plugging in IDs. You just hit that and quickly switch to what you want to use. Okay, the third tip for the advanced legacy tip tutorial is how to set speed limits. And first thing you might be wondering, well, what are speed limits used for? Well, let's say you have a couple of little kids that want to run your trains, but you're afraid that they might cause the train to run too fast or at an unsafe speed. Well, you can set a maximum speed limit and therefore restrict the top speed of the engine so you can let inexperienced drivers drive your trains without having to worry about them, running them off the curbs or whatever. So to do that, really easy. All you got to do, First you got to get your train to your desired top speed. So I'll do that right now with the big boy. So once I got it at a speed that I think, okay, you know, I don't really want anybody running my train past this speed, what you have to do is you hit your engine soft key, or train soft key, depending on if you're using an engine or a train. You hit your engine soft key, you go back to this screen, you see speed limit down there, you just press and hold that down until you see this. Speed limit set. And there you go. Now you can just hit your power button again to just get back to your normal operating screen. And there you go, your speed limit's set. Whoever drives your train cannot run over that. See, it says speed limit when you get up there. You can slow down your train. And also, if you want to help an experienced driver out, you might want to put them in a little bit higher momentum in order to prevent them from jerking the train or whatever. So now when you try to go up to that speed, like let's say they try to floor it, it's not going to let them do that. It's going to build up to your top speed, and it's just going to stay there. Which is nice, you know, you don't have to worry about little kids, you know, trying to make them go super fast around the turns or anything. To clear your speed limit, I'll stop my train now. To clear your speed limit and allow your train to go back to its full speed potential again, just want to hit that engine soft key again. And simply, you'll see that that icon is shaded when you have a speed limit set. You just want to hold it down again, speed limit off. And it's back to normal. And then you can just hit your power button right there and get back to normal operating. So that's how to use your speed limit to prevent inexperienced drivers from crashing your trains on the curves. Okay, the fourth tip that I want to show you today is what is roll? What is a roll command for the train? Roll simply is speed step 1. That's all roll means. It just means rolling, basically. So, when you're using roll, first to access that feature, you want to hit your speed bar. Roll is the feature right here, that number 1. That just signifies speed step 1. And you see 2 arrows below it and 1 arrow above it, because usually most of the time when you're using roll, most of the time you're braking rather than accelerating. So that's why there's 2 down arrow chevrons and then only 1 up. But anyway, if you're at a stop and you hit the roll button, depending on the momentum you have set, but it doesn't really matter because if you're at a stop it's going to take 2 seconds anyway, it'll bring you to speed step 1. Like I said, that signifies that you're rolling at the slowest possible speed. So yeah, I just brought my train to a roll by bringing it to speed step 1. Now let's say you're going faster. Let's say you're going, you know, a solid medium speed or whatever. You got your train underway. Now if you hit the roll button, now you're going to de-accelerate to speed step 1. If you press and hold the button, and I'll put it on high momentum so that I can demonstrate it for a longer period of time. If you press and hold the button, you'll hear braking sounds, and the engine will start heading back to speed step 1. Now if I release the button, the braking sound stops, but the engine is still working back to speed step 1. Once you hit roll, it's going to go to speed step 1 unless you change the velocity throttle. Now even though I let go, I can hit it again and continue the braking sounds. Can let go, can stop, hit it again, and that'll just keep playing my braking sounds for me. But even though I let go of the braking sounds, like I said, it's going to still keep going to speed step 1. And of course, if I was in a lower momentum, it just immediately goes there. So that's all it is to roll. And you can see now I'm at speed step 1 and the engine is on the other side just crawling. So that's all roll is. It used to confuse me as well. I wasn't sure exactly what it does or what it was for, but all it is it brings your engine to speed step 1 in one convenient little button. That's really all it is. So that's roll. Okay, the final tip, number 5, except for that little bonus tip I want to show you at the end, is a little bit smaller, but it's there if you need it and if you didn't know how to do it. It's basically speed step control. Now, it isn't what you think. Obviously, you go to speed steps in your speed bar again, and you got all your speed steps. Now, you know when you turn your engine on, you can press and hold for dialogue, or if you just tap it, it'll just give you the quick startup. Well, it's the same thing with speed steps, but the trick behind it, and then, like I said, it's a smaller trick, but it's cool, is once you hear the dial, it's the same thing with the speed steps. You press and if you just tap it real quick, it'll go up to that speed, whereas if you press and hold it, you'll hear the dialogue. But the cool thing is, if you press it and keep holding, the engine won't move until you release the button. So if I press and hold...
Union Pacific 4006, proceed at slow speed. Over. Okay, slow speed, 4006 out.
And this allows you to kind of pretend like the engineer's kind of registering the command or whatever. And if I keep holding this, it won't move until I let go. Now it's ready to go. And I'm in low momentum, so it's shot up. But I guess, like I said, that kind of allows you to simulate like the engineer's kind of prepping or something. Instead of like the engineer taking off right away as soon as the dialogue is heard, you can hold it and, you know, maybe simulate like, oh, okay, he's, you know, releasing the brakes, but yeah, da-da-da-da-da, you know. But anyway, those are my 5 tips for advanced legacy system operations. Really quick, let's get to that bonus tip. Okay, the quick bonus tip, like I said, some of you might already know this, but I figured I'd mention it because I thought about it last minute, is, you know your momentum keys? Low, high is considered 8, low is considered 1. Well, simply enough, medium momentum is actually adjustable. So if you hold down the medium momentum button, it brings you to this screen. And with the velocity throttle, you can raise and lower it. The lower you go, the more responsive, the quicker the response. The higher you go, the slower the response. And you just keep holding that, and when you have that set, you just let go, and you have your medium momentum set. So low and high momentums are not flexible. They're strictly 1 and 8. But medium momentum, like I said, you hold it down, you can play around with it and adjust it to your preference, and then let go when you're finished. And that's my small little quick tip. I know that was probably kind of not as significant as the other ones, but I figured I'd tag it on anyway. So that just about does it for my 5 advanced legacy system tips. Hope this video will help you become a better engineer, start impressing some of your friends with the tricks you know with the system. If you still have any questions, let me know. I'd be glad to answer them in the comments. And I want to say a quick thanks to you guys for making my legacy system tutorial videos a huge hit on YouTube. Well, not a huge hit, but my most popular videos. That's what really encouraged me to make this video and expand on that series. So, thank you all for watching. I hope this taught you a thing or two, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye now.